Happy Transformation Tuesday. Hope your Tuesdays are going well. And if they are not, it's early, man. Get some positivity going on in the morning. Nah, I'm just kidding. If your Tuesdays are not going well, I hope that as the day goes on, they'll go a little better. But something that I say that not everybody says is if your day is not going well, don't try to steer the river. And what I mean by that is, there are days when you wake up and you're like a 5 out of 10, right? And, through positive thinking and through just different things, you can get your day up to a 7 and 8. Or you might get lucky and something happens that makes your day a 10 out of 10, right? Or you could wake up and be like a 1 or a 2 out of 10. And then you could try to get yourself up to a 3 or 4, but then something takes you back down a notch. And now here you are at a 1 again. And then you try to build yourself back up again, 2, 3, 4, then you're back at a 1 again. But my point of saying that is there's just going to be days like that where you can never seem to get back on track. And I've learned to just ride the waves on those kind of days, so to speak. Essentially, what I'm saying is on those days, just know that the goal in life is to have more good days than bad ones. So sometimes you just have that bad one, it's just a bad day, you crumple it up, throw it away, and you're like, tomorrow is going to be a better one. And that has been such a useful tool to me. Actually, it's something that I kind of remixed from a therapist. I feel like I had something that I was doing years ago, lessons from therapy. I've learned so many things from going to therapy. And that was, like I said, something I remixed from a therapist. Do I want to get into that right now? Yes and no. Yes, because I do want to get into it, but no, because I'm about to go in and get this bagel. This is like my favorite morning routine is getting myself a going to the gym, then getting myself a bagel. Just make sure I got what I need to get. I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna come back to this topic though. I promise you I'm gonna come back to this topic. The topic is regarding the tools that I've used for getting through a hard day. Like I said, this bagel shop is calling my name. Soon, like within the next 2 to 3 weeks, I will not have the option to do this, or at least at this time. So I'm using these last few weeks of freedom somewhat to do things that I like to do at the times that I like to do them. Okay, BRB. Yeah, a lox bagel. Everything.
Everything bagel.
Yeah, lox and
Low spread.
lox and then
Low and cream cheese or only low?
cream cheese.
Cream cheese and low.
Yeah, with the scallion cream cheese.
It's scallion cream cheese and low.
Yeah, and lightly
Scallion
toasted.
cream cheese and low. And everything bagel.
Yeah.
Not everything bagel lightly toasted is scallion cream cheese and low.
Yes.
Not set. Not set.
Yeah.
One sandwich.
Yes.
Okay. $9.50.
Okay.
Card or card?
Card.
Rubio, ¿qué vas a llevar? ¿Nacer?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm gonna get back to that in a minute. Love me some bagels. Can't even lie. Love me some bagels. Bagels are my favorite. Even more. Oh, not my favorite, but it's funny because I really love an omelet. But I realize that I like my omelets that I make so much better than the omelets that I get in breakfast spots. Because breakfast spots, to me, I don't know, you pay so much for the omelet, 10, 11 bucks. You pay for every topping. What I like the best, when I was in college, I used to have an omelet bar. So the omelet bar is like, you pay, I think $8, $8.50 or something like that, and you get unlimited toppings. So I would load up my omelet. I would have mushrooms, tomatoes, onions. I'd throw some jalapenos in there, pepper jack cheese, green peppers. I would load up my omelet. My omelet would be really, really good. So I think I'm gonna get myself a coffee also. Even though I don't really drink coffee like that, but listen, man. I believe in the pursuit of happiness, no pun intended, but some people live their whole lives feeling like being happy is not important, and I'm not one of them. Happiness is very important to me. Little things that make me happy, I will continue to do those things till the end of time. Good morning, Nina. Nina, you're trying to go for subscriber of the month, aren't you? You're trying to go for the subscriber of the month award. You got some stiff competition. How's your morning going? I'm here in this bagel shop just waiting for my bagel. Then after I get my bagel, I'm gonna get a coffee. Which is funny because I should probably get both. My desire to do things that make me happy on a consistent, regular basis. The generation before me a lot of times tells me like, oh.
hot toasted with butter, bacon and egg, and mozzarella, with pepper, and egg super hard.
Thank you. Yeah, like I said, the generation before me always trying to convince me that happiness is optional, and I'm like, happiness is optional for y'all. I can't imagine living a life where I'm like, you do what you gotta do, and you go 40 years, 30 to 40 years, just like wildly unhappy about everything, but you're like, it's an honest living. And I always say I have some kind of respect for that. I have a respect for somebody who made sacrifice when it comes to like having a family. That's one aspect that I can't say that I have. So I understand somebody who you got mouths to feed, right? And it's like, do what I gotta do, work hard, pay the bills, put food on the table, roof over everyone's head. I respect it. I respect it deeply. I guess because I'm not in that position, I probably think more about my own happiness. Morning, Cass. Okay. I am going to get back to my topic once I get up out of here. Yes. Can I get a small vanilla cold brew with oat milk? Yeah. Sure. y'all mornings going? I haven't been saying anything. I always crack up when y'all say there's no volume when I'm not speaking. Oh, I'm sorry you have a cold. Hi, Tricity. Naomi. The mobile orders get served faster than the in-person orders. I gotta just download the Dunkin' app. But I don't download it because I don't even be going to Dunkin'. Two things that I use because of corporate pressure. Oh, thank you. Two things that I use because of corporate pressure. Or two things that I do, maybe I should say. Two things that I do because of corporate pressure or have. One, coffee, because I don't drink coffee. Like if I wake up in the morning, I'm not like, nothing smells better in the morning than a fresh brewed pot of coffee. Like that is not a thing for me, but because when I go to work, when I've gone to work various different places, they always have a coffee machine. So I'm like, you know what? Everybody in the world gets up and drinks coffee. So I need to get up and make sure that I get my coffee. I'm obsessed with bagels, man. When I can have a bagel in the morning, it's between bagels and omelets, but like I said, I have realized that if I have to choose between a bagel, if I'm out and I have to choose between a bagel or an omelet, I'm gonna pick the bagel because I don't really recall ever having a bagel that didn't taste good. It's hard to mess up a bagel unless you literally have a bad batch of bagels or something. Aside from that, there's not much you can do. Maybe there's somebody who's probably bad at the proportions of whatever you're putting on the bagel, but it's hard to have a bad bagel. But I have for sure had a bad omelet. I've had plenty of bad omelets. Even this place that I love their bagels, the last time I got their omelet, I must have paid like $10, $11 for the omelet. It was small and it was runny. And I was like, no, this is not good. Okay. I don't even know what mukbang is. But I need to stop reading things out loud, because one time somebody typed something in my chat that I read, and it was some kind of slang for some kind of bad word. And I was like, okay, but what I was saying before that long intermission that I just took is that sorry, this bagel is so good. Anytime I have one of these bagels, I can hardly get out a thought. I'm gonna pause on the bagel for a minute. When you have a bad day, so I remember there's this one time where somebody called me a toxic friend. And if you spoke to anyone who knows me now, anyone who's my friend, which I've told you guys is I consider a very small amount of people at this point. But if you ask anybody who considers themselves my friend, or not that considers themselves my friend, if you ask anyone that I consider them my friend, actually, if they consider me their least toxic friend that they have, maybe even the least toxic person that they know in life, they would probably tell you yes. But there was a time when somebody actually called me a toxic friend. Maybe a couple of people called me that. And I was like, what? I have never been called toxic in my life. And then I remember I was in therapy at the time. So I went to the therapist and I was like, this person called me toxic. And I'm like, I'm not toxic. I am not a toxic person. But the truth was, it wasn't that I was toxic. It was that I was going through a lot of things in my life at that particular point in time. And I don't mean like the types of things I'm going through now. I mean way, way worse things than what I'm going through now. And multiple months and years even that I was going through these things, to where I couldn't see my way out of where I was. And so a lot of the friends that I had kind of disappeared on me, and I just said it's because they're all terrible friends. And I remember this therapist had a really good way of breaking things down for me in a way that even if I didn't like what she was saying, I understood. So she was like, okay, so these people that are friends with you that have said these things or have been in your life and now are not in your life, what are your relationships like with them? And she was like, if they call you on the phone, she said, first of all, do you call them or do they call you? I'm like, I don't call anybody. So she said, okay, they always call you. That's one thing. And when you get on the phone with them, how does the conversation start? And I'm like, everyday typical conversation. Hi, how are you doing? How's life? She said, do you ask them that or did they ask you that? I said, they asked me. And she said, what is your typical response? I said, typically my response is like, I'm doing terrible. You know, like I have a lot going on. And she was like, okay. And then do you ask them what they have going on? You're giving me an idea there, Cass, to be honest with you. To be honest with you, but I would have to do it in my room because my mom does not give a care when I'm making a video. She doesn't even care if I'm in a work meeting. I remember this one time I was in a work meeting on video and I told her that I was in a work meeting, and she comes out of her room. You can access anything that you need to access without being behind me. The bathroom, I was sitting in the living room. You can get to the bathroom, you can get to the kitchen. I mean, the only thing is the TV, but she's got her own TV. She walks behind me. All right, that happens. Then she started cleaning. I'm like, what is she doing? You just see this lady back and forth. And I had my thing on blur, but it doesn't matter. You know, like once somebody is that close behind you, it starts to get in focus. Anyways, that's just a side topic. That's why I'm more prone to do things in my room or late at night or in my car. She does not care if I'm making content. I don't know if it doesn't register. I don't know. She's just like, that's not a concern for me. She will be right there in those videos, not caring what's happening with me. I'll be talking to y'all. Sometimes I'll be talking to y'all. This hasn't happened in a while because I've gotten much better with my timing and my locations to where she can't do it very often. But she'll just see me out there, strike up a conversation. I'm like, you see my live setup, right? That's why I had to move my whole setup to my room. Because I used to have it in the living room or the dining room, you know, but you can only do that if A, you have your own space, or B, you have somebody who recognizes your content creation as a do not disturb zone. And my dad was the same way, except, you know, I gave him a pass because his Alzheimer's is dementia. So it was hard to, as much as I tried to explain it to him, that just didn't register with him. I remember this one time I was actually doing a team's supervision meeting. I was getting my supervision one-to-one meeting, and he just came and sat right on he knocked on the door. I was like, 1 minute, Dad. Give me like 10 minutes to finish this meeting. And he just opened up the door and sat on my bed next to me. Sitting next to me during the meeting. But I explained the situation to my manager, so she got it. But that's a long sidetrack. So she asked me what I was doing in those conversations, or what I was saying. I said I was doing terrible, and then she said, and then would you ask the person how they're doing? And I was like, sometimes. So she said, sometimes you'll get in the conversation and they'll be the one that calls you. They'll ask you, Mark, how are you? You'll say, I'm doing terrible. You may or may not ask them how they're doing in return. And how's the rest of the conversation? They'll be like, and I said, they'll be like, what's terrible about what's going on? And then I'll be like, well, you know, I'm getting these panic attacks. I don't have a job. I don't have any money. I had to move back home, this and that. Like whatever was going on, all the things that were going on at that time, that's what I would be describing to whoever called. And then she said, and then what happens? And then I was like, after that, you know, the conversation is not that long. They'll get off the phone, and then, you know, I'll go about my day. So she said to me, let me ask you something. If somebody called, if you called somebody else, and on a consistent basis, you called them and you were like, hey, so-and-so, how are you? And they said, I'm terrible. And then you said, what's wrong? And then they said, my dog died, this, and this. My wife broke up with me, whatever. I'm anxious, this, that, and other, whatever they said. Just insert anything that is terrible for them, right? And this was a consistent thing that happened every single time that you called them, and you were the only one who called them, and they never called you. They never asked you how you're doing, and they never offered you anything on the other end of this friendship. Would you want to continue calling them, or would you consider that a toxic trait? And I was like, I guess. I didn't like that she said this to me, but I was like, I guess I wouldn't necessarily like if somebody did that to me, and I might not want to call them. Who knows? So I was like, so she was like, so do you think that that could be a reason why those people are calling you less, or not calling you, or giving you those types of comments? I said, I don't care. Because at that time, anyone who knows that when you're in that type of mental space, you can be kind of selfish. You're not really thinking about what the other people around you are going through. You're like, I'm going through what I'm going through. And it doesn't matter. I mean, nobody else around me is going through anything. My family and friends are not going through it, right? So I said, I'm being authentic. I am doing terrible. So if they call me up and ask me how you doing, and I say I'm doing terrible, it's because I'm keeping it real. And if they can't handle that, they don't deserve to be in my life. That is a toxic mentality. That's true, because you focus on you. Absolutely. That is a toxic mentality. So the lady said, I don't consider you to be a toxic person, because we've been meeting, speaking for several months, and I know that that is not who you are. But you can be someone who is not a toxic person, but exudes toxic traits situationally. I was like, So I was like, okay, so what's your solution then to if somebody calls me up and asks me how I'm doing and I'm feeling like ish? She said, okay, try this one. They call you up. You're not doing well. Today was not your day. But you know that's your baseline. They call you and they say, hi, Mark, how are you? You're like, well, I'm not having the best day today. I feel like this, and this. But I'm sure that tomorrow is going to be a better one. How are you doing? So I was like, I guess I can try that. I suppose I can try that. Red Balloon Learning. Shout out to you, Red Balloon Learning. I don't think I've seen you here before, by the way. But at some point, one should reach out every once in a while. Did I miss your last comment? They should also understand. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's true too. I mean, it's a two-part topic. It's not just a ABC 1, 2, 3 type of topic. My toxic trait is eating on camera. Not gonna lie. I used to do it all the time. People complained on me. But then I'm like, if you like me, you gotta know that I'm a foodie. and you got to know that sometimes I'm going to eat. Sometimes I'm on here for hours and I forget to eat. Yeah, so I said, okay, let me go try that. I didn't actually say that right away. At first I was, because I'm not a person who, I'm hard-headed, I'm not going to lie to you. When people tell me things, I do listen. I have a friend that knows me very well, that knows this about me very well. I do listen eventually, but that's after I get over being mad at you saying whatever it was that you said. I'm like, I don't like that. And then maybe a week or two or three or a month later, whatever you said might come back in my head, and I'm like, let me give this a try. So that's what happened in this case. I didn't like what that therapist said, and I'm like, maybe I should get a new therapist. I don't like therapists who talk to me like that. So what had happened was, I remember I had a friend of mine who was one of the people who was saying those types of things about me. They called me up one day. I was like, I don't want to be known as a toxic friend. What the heck? I've never been known as that. I've always been known as the person who's sympathetic, empathetic, the person that people come to with their problems, the person who helps people get through things. Like, when did I get this label that I just can't seem to shake? So they called me, and the person said, how are you? I used that script. I was like, you know what? Today I'm not having the best of days. Such and such happened. I feel like such and such. I gave like a 1 minute type summary of the negative things that I was feeling. I said, but you know what? I'm optimistic that tomorrow is going to be a better day than today. Was I really optimistic that tomorrow was going to be a better day than today? No, I was just following a script to see what would happen. It's following the script of the therapist. Then I said, how are you doing? The other person seemed like they were surprised that I said, how are you doing? They were like, well, I am experiencing this. I feel like this is happening in my life. I was like, tell me about it. So then we started having a conversation, and the conversation actually served as a little bit of distraction from being in my own head. And actually, like, this is before I got into doing counseling. I realized that a lot of people who do counseling or even psychotherapy, they have a lot of things going on in their own lives, and it kind of helps you to be out of here, to be present with the other person that you're talking to. So anyways, me and that person had one of the best conversations that we had in years, just from that simple little tool. And then the next day comes, I'm speaking to somebody else. I say something similar, today I had such and such happen. Today was not the greatest, but I believe that tomorrow is going to be better. Let me tell you two things that happened with that. One, it made me a better friend, because friendship and relationships require deposits and withdrawals. So there are going to be times when the people in your life just dump on you. You know what I mean? Because we go through different things at different times. Like when I lost my dad, I wasn't in a position to make any deposits into anybody's life. And when I say deposits, I mean in the sense of there's not going to be a lot of value added things. These are business terms. That's for whatever reason, the business analogies. I did business in school. That's what sticks in my head. There's not going to be a lot of value added things that I'm going to be providing for somebody's life in a time when I'm going through a heavy period of grief. So anyone who talks to me during that period of time has to just know that, I have to deposit into this guy's life. I have to fill his cup, because his cup is empty right now. But if it's a relationship that over the course of time, everything has been reciprocated over time, and I have made plenty of my own deposits, and life has peaks and valleys for everybody, and if during your valleys I was there providing those deposits, then you're going to be willing to accept that for a certain period of time he can't provide me anything right now, so he's just going to be checking. I'm going to need to check on him, and he's always going to, it's going to be a period of time where he's not going to be positive, or he's not going to be happy, he's going to be sad or whatever. But because of the nature of the reciprocation of the relationship, that can be tolerated and accepted. But if it's a case where I am always making withdrawals, and then something happens to me and I'm making more withdrawals, which I have experienced people like that in my life now, I'm going to be less prone to be on the receiving end of that one-sided type of relationship. And people don't realize that. I recognize toxic people right now because I know what it feels like to actually be that person. It was not a long period of time in my life, but it was during the period of my life when I was just going through it so deeply that I didn't care or think about the people around me at all. It was like a unintentional selfishness that I didn't mean to have. Now I'm very conscious of that. Like even now, even despite the fact that I have things that I'm going through right now, even if I have some big thing to drop on somebody, if I've called somebody up recently, I had so many things happen to me recently, and I've called somebody up and I called them to actually tell them about what I had going on. But I start off with like, hey, how's everything going with you? And somebody has told me, well, like let's say my mom has this terminal illness. That's how they start the conversation. I'm struggling with that. And then I will just table the topic that I had, because I'm like, all right, this thing is a really big thing, and I can save my topic for another time, and this person does not have the capacity, even if they don't tell you that, because it's hard to tell somebody that you don't have the capacity to listen to their problem. But it's something I've learned how to do. Because like they say, you can't fill from an empty cup. If your cup is empty, you can't really offer yourself to said person to help resolve their issue. I tell people all the time, if you're feeling down or you have stuff going on in your life, the best thing you can, it's very uplifting. I agree. That's probably why, despite the fact that you always hear me complaining about the work that I do, I was talking to somebody the other day. Actually, I was talking to the interviewer that I had the other day, and the interviewer was like, we don't get into this line of work for money, and ain't that the truth? The only way you're making real money in this mental health field is if you are a private practice, LCSW, or a doctor. Like, that's the only way. Otherwise, or like anyone in administration, of course. But I mean the people who are actually there with the clients, like you're doing the nitty gritty and working with the clients on a day-to-day. You're not getting money from that. So it's definitely pouring into others definitely does something for you mentally, and it really does something special, right? When you wake up in the morning and you're like, my life is in a million pieces, it's a total mess. And then you leave your house and meet up with somebody who also feels like my life is a mess, but they look at you like I'm so appreciative of you for helping to take the pieces of my life and put them back together. That feeling is honestly priceless, and I don't express that often. I probably haven't said that in months on this live, but that feeling is like so priceless. And the thing that keeps you in there while you're dealing with these battles with the administration and your managers and all this other stuff, like, you ask anyone in the field and they'll tell you, anyone who's in the field for the right reasons, and they'll tell you something similar. Send gift to a family member and never get a thank you. Yeah, I've heard about that. And sometimes it's not because they don't appreciate what you gave them, but sometimes it's just like they're so deep in their own issue. I've actually said thank you to somebody months later. I'm not saying that family member is going to say thank you to you, but I have actually had a case of people did things for me during the time when my father passed, and I received it, but I was like, I can't even really think about this right now. But then, like when months had passed and the clouds were starting to lift a little bit, I was like, you know what? When I think back to this time period, this person, this one, and that one, I'm so thankful for what they did, and I'll reach back out and I'll let them know. Do you have a channel, by the way, Red Balloon Learning? Just curious. I can't look while I'm on here, but out of curiosity, do you have a YouTube channel for something? I really left half of this bagel unoccupied. Sorry, bagel. That just means I was really into the conversation. Thank you. Oh man, I gotta head home because I have some paperwork. I have some important paperwork to fill out. I'm gonna be doing some new things, okay? I'm gonna be doing some new things next month. In my life, people always think that they can do things to me that hold me down. You work in psychology. Listen, if you ever wanted to do something, if you ever wanted some assistance with getting started, if you ever wanted some assistance with getting started, I always tell everybody I am open to that. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, subscribe to it. I would say, I don't know if I have my email address in my bio. I think I might have my email address in my bio though. If it's in my bio, go look it up, or if you want, you could just shoot your email in the comments. I'll take it down. I could shoot you an email. But yeah, hi Marshall. How's everyone? Top of the morning. How's everyone's morning going? Oh, I was in the middle of my rant. People have done things in my life so much where they think that whatever they took away from me is gonna keep me down, right? And this time was one of the worst because honestly, I am so optimistic all the time, even though I might not sound like it. I'm a very optimistic person. I'm like, things are gonna work out. I don't know how they're gonna work out. I don't know what way, but they are going to work out somehow. This was the first time ever where I said to myself, I don't know how things are going to work out. I don't know in what way they're going to work out. I don't understand why this happened to me. What am I going to do next? You know, like, I was going through it. I'm still going through it somewhat, but I was really deeply going through it. My only outlet, aside from my EAP counselor, was YouTube. Really, just getting on YouTube. And then an opportunity comes into my life. Is it my favorite opportunity? Not necessarily, but an opportunity nonetheless that took me out of a tough situation in a rather short amount of time. And I was like, you know what? This has happened before. And it just goes to show you, like, when you're a good person and when you're good to people, your character is always going to take you through the roughest of situations. And you don't necessarily know the who, what, why, when, or where of the matter, but that has been a consistent thing that has happened for me in my life. One thing that I think is the best thing exits, and then something that is even better comes along. And not only that, I feel like the shakeup was a thing that I needed. One, to get me out of something that I just never felt right for me. And number two, to just put me back in a place of refocusing on my own best interests. You know, because at a time, I've had so many goals in my life. It's not a goal for me to just pay my bills and die. Like, that's not a thing. That's not a goal. That's just something that I have to do. I want to get to the place where, you know, I wake up in the morning and I'm like, I am excited to be awake and alive because I love what I'm doing. Not like I'm doing this because I have to. I would love to be in a place where I'm like, where I'm not like, I can't wait until I work 6 months so I can build up 2 weeks of vacation time. You know how crazy that sounds to me? I mean, that's most people's lives. If I work 6 months, or sometimes more than that, depending on how much vacation time your job allows, I can get 2 weeks off. 6 months of grind. You know, like, you get a day off here and there. Memorial Day. If your job gives you like President's Day, Christmas, Thanksgiving. Thanks for those likes, whoever gave me those. But the rest of it, like 20 plus days of work every single month, aside from when you're sick or you have an emergency, or, you know, you worked yourself to the point of exhaustion and you just need the day off for like a couple of days, like a couple of weeks for yourself. That equation just never worked for me, and it never will work for me. And I will never stop looking for the alternative formula. Last year, in October, it was about 4 months ago, I turned 37 years old. I don't think 37 years old is an old age, but the reason why I felt a little bit depressed when I turned 37 was because I said 40 is around the corner. I got 3 more years to 40. Not that 40 is like the end of my life or anything, but It's just that there's certain things that I thought that I would have accomplished by that age. I mean, I also thought that of 30, but I really think that have thought that of 40. And I was like, man, I keep talking about all these things that I want to get out of life. But I have basically been living the standard 9-to-5 life for the past 20 years. I've been trying different things outside of that, but when you look at how the results of how things have been, you know, like I've been living that standard 9-to-5 life for almost 20 years. That was depressing for me because I'm like, that's not the life I want to live. It's just that I got to the point where I'm like, I have to pay the bills. There was a time when I even quit a 9-to-5 job just because I thought that I have so many different talents. I don't have to work a 9-to-5. I can make that money up. It's hard. I remember I quit in 2018 and I was doing a combination of photography, public speaking, and music gigs. And while those gigs paid me way more per hour than what I would get at my 9-to-5, they don't give health benefits. And they depend on my ability to keep going. Like if I feel sick, if I feel lethargic for a week or something, I'm not getting paid. Like, and if I'm not hustling up to advertise and promote myself, I'm not getting paid. Whereas I can go to work and give several below average performances in a row, and that paycheck is still going to be what that paycheck is every 2 weeks. Entrepreneurship life is hard. Not that I don't want to do it, but I acknowledge the difficulty of it. You're just passing through if you feel that way. Thank you. I do feel that way. Like all these jobs that I do, I have to try hard to extract the meaning from them. I'm like, there's some part of my purpose that is tied to what I do for work, but I think that I could be doing more. I think that I could be doing much more than what I'm doing presently. So many of us think there's a ton to accomplish by a certain point, but that's true. Things can happen at any point. And anything major that has happened in my life has really been that way. Like, even creating this page, not this page, but even creating my music and mental health page, if you asked me then, did I think that I would have a page where my fans are predominantly Big Brother fans? I would be like, how could my page be predominantly Big Brother fans when I don't like Big Brother? I didn't like Big Brother prior to 2020. So I tried to make a challenge page. And I would do like challenge recaps and challenge everything. And nobody was watching. I watched Big Brother for like 2 seasons. And then all of a sudden I throw up some Big Brother content, and then all of a sudden I have a Big Brother page. My Big Brother page got me monetized. That's not something I could plan for. That's something that I have gotten really good at, I would say, in the past 5 years, because I used to be so rigid with what I thought I needed to do to succeed. And I started to get to the point where I'm like, instead of being hard-headed and being like, I'm gonna do this exact thing and I'm gonna just keep doing the same thing until I succeed at this thing, I'm like, if I accidentally discover something that people like, I'm gonna keep doing it. Like, for instance, excuse me, I never could have seen myself sitting on an online platform and talking to people for hours, because this used to be my worst nightmare, I'm telling you. Like, I could talk in person, and I even got to the point where I could do in-person public speaking, but I used to be terrified to get on this internet and talk to people, because in a public speaking venue, I can look out in the audience and physically see the people in front of me. Whereas aside from the comment section, all I'm seeing is like a number, and I don't know who's watching me. I'm like, it could be anybody. Anybody could be a part of that, a part of that number. But after doing it for a while, my concern was not, actually, I prefer this even to live public speaking, because I can always be in my comfort zone when I'm online. I could choose to be on here for 5 minutes. I could be on here for 5 hours. I could be on here for 20 minutes. I could talk about any topic I want. I could talk about the weather. I could talk about sports. I could talk about hairstyles, and if I'm not feeling it, for a week, I can just not jump on here for a week. I always choose the terms. when I'm online. I think I'm going to eat the other half of that bagel later. Surprisingly, that bagel was filling. Not surprisingly, I usually eat half the bagel unless I'm really hungry. Random, I know, but the bagel is like sitting here in my passenger seat like it's a passenger. Thought I was gonna do med school right out of high school. Then my mom died and things changed. Later, I went back and found a way to do PA school. Good for you. Good for you. Life threw another curveball, so now I watch Mark. And like I said, you wouldn't be watching Mark if Mark hadn't been watching Taylor Hale one day. I will always forever keep mentioning this, because I know that those people are watching and they watch my channel from time to time. I have 2 monetized channels. Well, at least the first one I credit to Taylor Hale. Even though people said that I was hating on her and I hate her and all that stuff. I don't. I never have, and I never will, right? Taylor Hale. I remember watching season 24, and that was the first season that I ever invested into watching live feeds. She was laying on the hammock and she was eating Lay's potato chips. And I was like, this is so funny how the camera is always on Taylor eating these Lay's potato chips. So I took like a little video and I said something. I'm like, because people were having some game discussion over in the corner, and she was just sitting there unbothered eating her Lay's potato chips. And I put up a video. I had some commentary on it. I was like, look at Taylor in the corner just eating her Lay's, unbothered, sunbathing. And then I was like, you know what? How does she always eat Lay's every day? She doesn't gain weight. I was like, man, I breathe and I gain weight. I made some commentary on it. It was kind of funny. I put the video up. I didn't really know how many views it was gonna get, because I had never put up any Big Brother content before. I think the video got like 40,000 views or something like that, something crazy like that. And prior to that, I had been putting up videos that I spent hours creating between the time that I planned what I was gonna say, recording, re-recording, editing, all that stuff. And I was like, how did this one video of Taylor Hale eating Lay's potato chips get more views than all my videos combined that I spent so much work on? So I was like, all right. The next day I was like, all right, let me record some, like, a Big Brother live feed recap or something. So I put that up there. It got like 3,000-4,000 views. And then I was like, wow, people really are eating up this Taylor, content. I mean, it wasn't Taylor content per se, like it was Big Brother content, but Taylor was so popular to the fans that season, or polarizing, depending on which side of the coin you're on, popular or polarizing, that anything that you said about her, people just ate that up. And within a month or so, my channel got monetized. And I always say, not when I look at my engagement rates since that season, even when Big Brother is on, it is nowhere near the type of engagement that I had during that season. So I actually owe her. When I say owe her, I don't literally mean owe her, but I credit her. I definitely credit her for the fact that I at one time had 2 monetized pages, and especially the first one. So you never know. That was a long way of saying that I agree with Cass that we become so obsessed with timelines and not realize that things can happen at any time and in unexpected ways. With that said, I'm hopping off this thing. Thank you for joining me. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And hit the notification bell. Whew, it's cold. To get notified of when I drop some more great content. Thank you.